to episode number 12 of the LSR Podcast. My name is Matt Brown, joined each and every week by the brightest minds in all of the gaming industry. The gang is all here, as they say. Eric, Ramsey, Dustin Gowker, and Adam Candy, and we'll be joined in a little bit by another one of those bright minds in Jess Wellman, who'll tell us what is going on in Pennsylvania. Guys, we are on iTunes, we are on Stitcher, we are on Spotify. You can find us on the Twitter machine at LSP Report. And if you want to follow these knuckleheads on the Twitter machine at Eric_Ramsey, at Dustin Gowker, and at Adam Candy, 2 E's, no Y. You will be able to follow everything that's been going on here, guys. And I mean, I guess in terms of how we have had, recently and with weeks gone by, a relatively calm, would you say, Eric, a relatively calm last 7-ish days since our last podcast?
No, bro. I don't think Adam and Dustin would agree with you either. No, bro.
No, we're not gonna go with relatively.
That is not true.
In terms of quantity of states we've been paying attention to, it's certainly been fewer, but there has been a lot of news out of a couple states in particular this week that we've been following.
Adam, have you had to listen to any crazy hearings or anything this week?
I myself have not had that duty, but I will tell you that when you said it's episode 12 of the LSR podcast, I thought to myself, only 12, because this has been a very long week on top of another few very long weeks.
But with you being a Las Vegas resident, I know you are happy that we are out of the 70-degree weather here, at least, though. We are now in the mid-80s, approaching the low 90s, which is where we need to be this time of year.
I'm not going to lie to you. I currently am not in Las Vegas. I am in 70-degree weather, and I'm enjoying it much more than whatever you're doing.
You're a crazy person. You are just an absolute crazy person. I don't know how anyone could possibly like the mid-70s in June. We're in June. We're going to go ahead and call it June. So let's get after this, guys. Let's talk about New York. Eric, this is an ongoing saga here. Every single week we have something new coming out of New York, and then now we've got even a headline that you said was Crazy Town. We're not gonna use the exact words that you used, because this is a friendly podcast here for everybody's ears. But you think it's crazy?
Yeah, we had a little movement. We don't have 70-degree weather yet in New York. We haven't quite gotten there yet here, and we don't have mobile sports betting yet either. We're trying to get there before the legislature adjourns on June 19th. Both of the bills we've been watching moved a bit over the past week. The one in the Senate moved out of the Gaming, Racing, and Wagering Committee, and the one in the Assembly moved this week. That's the bill from Gary Pretlow. We've talked a bit about these bills. There's probably still some work left to do on them, but they include an integrity fee. They include official league data for in-play betting. There are no more than one skin allowed for the tribal and commercial casino, so it's a pretty restrictive bill. The main hang-up seems to be the governor. We're still not exactly sure where he stands. Assemblyman Pretlow quoted this week saying, "I think we finally convinced them that the constitutional questions are invalid." Meanwhile, the governor's spokesperson says our position on constitutional concerns has not changed. So the governor didn't cover sports betting in his top 10 wish list for the remainder of session, and really still seems like an underdog. But the first step, those bills are out of their committee of origin. So we're going to face the firing squad in the two chambers.
Now, Adam, I saw some commentary on the Twitter machine going on about this, that this was kind of a political game of chicken that was going on here, and it wasn't necessarily all about the actual legality. It was people just trying to get what they wanted.
Well, that's a fair assumption at this point of any state legislature, because Cuomo all along has made clear that he's going to focus on larger priorities. Eric mentioned that top 10. It seems to me that what the governor has done all along has attempted to use sports betting as a carrot of sorts to work on other priorities for legislators who have been trying to get sports betting for quite a long time. What doesn't make any sense to me is the governor going out and giving an interview that directly contradicts what his spokesperson is saying. Let me tell you, from the perspective of having been that spokesperson, that's one of those moments when you go, oh bleep, after you hear the interview, and try to get out to a reporter real fast to make sure you're still on message.
Dustin, with this whole New York thing here, I know this was a state that people were fairly confident in. You are our resident handicapper when it comes to this. How do you feel with all of this latest stuff coming down, all this latest news, all the shenanigans that are going on? How do you feel about New York?
I just don't think it gets done. I think we've seen the rug pulled out too many times on other types of gaming bills, and I don't think there's been enough work done to get everybody on the same page. It doesn't mean it can't happen, and New York doesn't seem to think that the revenue is a big deal or a big piece of this. So without any of that kind of momentum, I don't necessarily see how it gets done. Now, if things have changed on the assembly side, someone in Pretlow actually has votes lined up, we have a shot at this. As we look at the calendar, we are basically like a little over 3 weeks away from them wrapping up their everything in New York. As we know in the past from daily fantasy sports and online poker, happens at the absolute 11th hour, and I'm not even making that up. It's actually like DFS passed like in the wee hours of the morning, for those who remember that. So it's going to be alive until somebody tells me it's entirely dead, but I am not going to sit here and say I think it's at all likely that it gets done.
Eric, I have a home state. That home state is Louisiana. We were talking last week, and everything seemed like it was just rosy and heading right to the finish line, and we were basically going to start tacking them onto your famous map that we have going on over at LegalSportsReport.com, and what a difference a week makes.
Yeah, none of that is true anymore. Unfortunately, poor Senator Danny Martini has worked for about a year on this bill that cleared the Senate very easily about a month ago. And he sat in front of the House committee this week and just begged them not to destroy his bill. And they went ahead and did just that. They added 2 amendments that will pretty much kill this bill. One is to include the video poker parlors in the state. There are about 2,800 of those that would need to be licensed, and the bill just is simply not built for that. It would also need a new fiscal note under this framework, and there is no time left to do that. So this is kind of seen as the amendment. This is an attempt to kind of derail this bill, and it probably worked. The other amendment was official league data. There's just no appetite for that. Senator Martini sees right through that plan from the leagues. And this bill, it didn't escape committee. There was an attempt to recall it later, another attempt to add the language to a separate bill. All of these have so far failed. Very few options left in Louisiana now.
Yeah, very interesting, because we did mention that DFS got the go-ahead there, and so that actually will be starting. So we just assumed that this whole sports betting thing would be more of a formality, but it like you said, just got really derailed by this whole addition of the video poker kiosk things. I mean, you mentioned how many of them there are. As a guy that used to live there, I can assure you that you can be 16 years old and get on those things before someone catches you, like doing what you're doing. So I completely understand why this is a poison pill, as you use the language, because it would just the policing of that. I mean, when you're talking about just doing it at 14 casinos and a handful of racetracks, that's one thing. When you're talking about 2,000 plus places that have these video poker kiosks, I mean, it's just impossible.
Yeah, that was the concern of the Gaming Commission. What you mentioned, the policing it. They're worried about the burden on the state police for that. What they've ended up with is a bill that nobody supports. The casinos don't support it. Gaming Commission doesn't support it. Even the Video Lottery Association, which would benefit from this, has no position on it. So it's become something that no one wants.
Very interesting. Not a shock to me that something in Louisiana politics went sideways. Not a shock in the least bit here. Adam, we had a very interesting tweet that was sent out by a lawmaker in Colorado, but he was definitely bragging about what they got done over there.
That's Alec Garnett, the House Majority Leader, who had been pushing sports betting since late last year. This week's news was sort of a formality. Governor Jared Polis signed the bill that is going to put sports betting on the ballot in Colorado in November. He didn't have to sign the bill. That's what I was told by the Secretary of State's office last week, but ultimately did choose to do so. The tweet was funny. He sent out a tweet basically saying that he thought it would be a bigger signing ceremony, and the actual picture was Garnett and the governor, and he then included a number of Denver area sports stars as well as DFS star Peter Jennings. It was pithy. I enjoyed it. It was pithy.
I did too. I did too.
I would prefer if instead of tweeting, he would return my phone calls. But
if you're listening out there, just saying,
I mean, this is what the kids call it a subtweet. But today I did it live.
Yes, I like it. I like it a lot. Now, Dustin, going back to our handicapping here, where does Colorado kind of sit on your radar here, and what would the great people of Colorado, how should they feel about sports betting there?
I don't know. I mean, the problematic part is how the question is currently phrased on the ballot. Like, you start off a ballot question by saying, do you want to raise taxes? And you're like, people are like, nope, I'm out on this. And they don't even get to the fact that you're legalizing sports betting. Like, that sounds simplistic, but how people don't take a whole lot of time to consider what they're voting, and they see that and they're like, I'm done. Like, I think it's pretty complicated, and I think you need to see some polling made out of Colorado on the ballot measure, which we may see from somebody. But I just don't have a sense that the ballot question to me really throws a monkey wrench in everything.
And Dustin, to add to that, the state is required to phrase the ballot question that way because there's what's called a taxpayer bill of rights in Colorado that was passed roughly 25 years ago. So yeah, they're required to put it that way. And that taxpayer bill of rights is essentially a bill that was put into place to try to thwart tax increases, to get people to have to vote on every tax increase that the legislature puts through. So there's a lot of work involved there.
Whenever we really expand this t-shirt line, we will get one with hashtag call Adam back. So just so that whenever we really kind of get, a bunch of different SKUs going here, and we've got this really robust online store, we will have a hashtag call Adam back.
Well, that's going to be available both at the LSR store and on Tinder.
Okay. Yes. I like that. Very well. Very well. All right, Adam, let's keep rolling here with you. New Hampshire, what is going on in the state of, I don't know, what is there, 57 people in how many people are in New Hampshire?
No, there are 435,000 people, right, and every one of them is in the state legislature. It's one of those places where if you have ever seen the New Hampshire state legislature, it's like you show up, you get a driver's license and a seat in the House of Representatives. So New Hampshire might actually get this done. There's a chance that we're waiting on the Senate at this point to pass a bill that has been largely agreed upon. There's still there's a holdup, but not a big one. There's broad agreement on the parameters of the bill in New Hampshire. I can tell you that LSR's intrepid Matt Cradell is keeping an eye on that as we record this podcast. So the axiom has held true all year long. The smaller the state, the better the chance of sports betting going through.
All righty. I like this. Listen, we got to start somewhere, right? I mean, we got to start somewhere. We can't just say, give us California, Texas, and Florida and move on here. We got to start somewhere.
We definitely can say that, and we'll be just sitting here saying it for a long time with no progress.
That would be a big parlay hit if you bet all three of them to pass in the same time.
Yeah, that'd be something else here. Now, Dustin, here in Las Vegas, a very big event that has been going on for 50 years now. The World Series of Poker is kicking off this week here. We already have events going down at the Rio here in Las Vegas. Now, I think there's going to be some people listening that might be wondering, okay, hey, what's going on there? I got to play last year online. Am I able to play this year online? How is this working? What about Pennsylvania? Is there any chance in hell that that's going to happen? Like, what's going on with the online part of the World Series of Poker and just online poker in general?
On its face, the online portion of the WSOP itself is pretty robust. Like, this is big time for cash games when people aren't playing in the tournament. There's an increasing number of online bracelet events. We had a story over at Online Poker Report. I think we're guessing their prize pools just for the online events are going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of like 7-8 million, depending on how things go exactly. So, like, that's wild to think. Once upon a time, not that long ago, there were no online events at all for the World Series. and they've the early endeavors worked out well. A lot of people were interested and signed up, so they've kept expanding it. We might be getting to a tipping point with how things are going. There's also the complication of the Wire Act, which if you've listened to this podcast, you've heard for a while what's going on there. There's an ongoing court case. They're allowing New Jersey players to play in online bracelet events at the beginning, and I think they're going to make a call on the fly depending on how that case goes or what the DOJ says moving forward about whether New Jersey players will be able to register and play in the later events. So if you're in Nevada, no problem. You definitely can play. Pennsylvania, we're still waiting for online poker, online casino to launch. You're not playing at WSOP.com, certainly for the World Series, or probably any time until maybe in the fall if things go well. So that's where we stand. The online poker is it's hurting without just widespread legalization and pooling of players, but there are at least signs that things will get better in the future.
And you mentioned OPR. Eric, you will continue to cover this and any news, anything that comes out, I imagine, through the course of the World Series we will have over there.
You will. We have one of the first of those online bracelet events is this weekend, so we'll be covering that over on OPR.
So tell us about Tennessee, Eric. I mean, the last time that we were talking, we knew what was going to happen, but the formality, the formality happened here. So what's going on in Tennessee?
Yeah, unlike Louisiana, it did actually happen in Tennessee. We thought, well, almost. We expected that bill to become law without a signature, and that is what happened. I had got my wires crossed there for a second. The governor, Bill Lee, returned it without signature. He released a statement that I can't find right. Oh, there it is. He is very anti-gambling, and the statement he attached in tweet says, "I do not believe the expansion of gambling through online sports betting is in the best interest of our state, but I appreciate the General Assembly's efforts, yada, yada." So the long story short is Tennessee does have legalized sports betting now. Remember, this is our least favorite of the bills we have in the books of laws right now. It has a $750,000 annual license fee, a 20% tax on revenue, and that pesky official league data mandate. That is the first time we've seen that pass into law in the United States.
Well, there we have it. We at least have another state on the books here. I know that I did see from even Chris Grove, I think, on the Twitter machine say that he's at least had some sources tell him that, again, on the surface, we talked about this with Pennsylvania, but he actually has had some sources tell him that they are going to sit out Tennessee. So we will see if that actually is the case here. But we talked about how Tennessee going to make it very, very tough for anybody to make any money. Dustin, you had an interesting little thing happen that just, rubbed you the wrong way just a little bit. Of course, we have all of these broadcast deals with these sports books here, and TNT decided to do a cutaway during Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And what exactly were they talking about?
Yeah, they talked about betting on the pregame show for the NBA, which I have no problem with it. That's great if you want to talk about betting and work it into the mainstream. The problem is that the segment, which comes from Bleacher Report, they're doing some gambling content. They're owned by Turner Broadcasting, obviously does TNT, which is where the game was, and they're broadcasting this from Caesars Sportsbook in Las Vegas. Now, all of that should add up to, we're gonna talk about regulated sports betting or things that are available in Nevada or in legal sports betting markets. But like less than a minute into the segment, they're starting to talk about prop bets involving Drake. And if you're familiar, obviously he's a big Raptors fan, sits courtside, often shenanigans involved, and offshore books are offering these prop bets on what's going to happen with Drake. But these are not things that have ever taken place at a Nevada sports book or at a Caesars sports book. So it was a head scratcher for me, like why all these parties come together. TNT, which is a broadcast partner of the NBA, Caesars, which is hosting this and is probably was hoping to get people should be betting at Caesars and not at offshore sports books. Instead, you're giving them people information about that you can't bet it at legal books. And then you have the NBA, which is tacitly involved in all this because this is an official pregame show that's leading into an NBA broadcast. So I have a big problem with just the carelessness of all of this, and people so a lot of people, it seems, agree with me, and then there's also some like, whatever, this is mainstream media, like we're just going to talk about sports betting, and who cares if it's offshore or not. I know you disagree with that as well, but it all rubs me the wrong way when you take it as a whole.
No, absolutely. I mean, again, we're in a time right now where there's going to be exposure to a lot of people who never even thought in their entire life about placing a sports bet. And so whenever you start throwing these bets out there that are not able to be made at any of the legal sports books across this country, and I say across this country because no sports book in any jurisdiction, in any legalization, in any legal market is going to throw up anything that has to do with will Drake, whatever, do a cartwheel on the sideline, or like, none of this stuff is ever going to be available in any sort of legal market. So it's confusing at the least, and then it's just kind of outright dumb at the worst, because you're promoting stuff that have absolutely no interest in.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to that and then you say, "Oh man, I would love to bet on what Drake's doing," you Google that, you're going to get a bunch of content from other media people who will also be promoting this because they got a press release from an offshore book, and then you're going to go, "Oh, if I want to put this bet down, I need to go to an offshore book." Like the whole thing is just, it's mind-boggling to me that everybody is like, the people involved can't see far enough past to say, oh, this, I mean, yeah, sure, it's interesting content, but it's like none of the parties involved with creating that content should want to make that content. So
right.
It's all, I didn't get into my super angry voice, but it does make me angry.
Here in Las Vegas, outside of the World Series of Poker, on Saturday, Circa Sports is actually launching here in Nevada. Now, if you guys have been following along, I know that there's been a bunch of stories over at the Lines. I think there's been mentions at some of our other sister sites as well. Circa Sports, Derek Stevens is a guy that owns the D Casino here in Las Vegas, also owns the Golden Gate, and is going to build, building a Circa Casino, which is going to have the largest sports book, the largest video screen, and all of that in sportsbook in the country. It's going to be a really, really big deal, but they went and applied at the Nevada Gaming Commission for their own gaming license when it comes to regulating sports betting. And so they are going to be launching on Saturday. So Circa Sports will include those three casinos. Circa, when it launches in 2020, the D, that actually will launch at the D Casino at the end of the month. And then we're going to have the Golden Gate that is actually launching on Saturday. But it's kind of interesting here, Eric. This is the first new sports betting app that is going to be launching in Nevada in over 5 years. You have listened to, me and Adam sit here and curse to the high heavens every single sports betting thing that is going on here in Nevada because they're just so behind the times. We did do a little digging yesterday, and we know a little bit about where this is coming from with Circa.
Yeah, if we remember right, this is a stadium tech product, which leads us to believe it's CG is involved. The apps that you guys have from CG right now aren't anything to write home about, but we do know that this is sort of an ambitious project. Derek Stevens is a smart guy about this. Maybe there's something in mind for this product that we don't know, but I mean, you're probably happy to have a new app to fiddle around with out there, right?
I mean, Adam, I'm going to, if this thing even looks remotely, if this thing is like 1% better than any of the apps here, I will immediately just move all of my action to that. That is how upset I am with our choice of apps here currently in Las Vegas. So I'm just I will move all of my action if I feel like this thing is even 1% better. I want to promote innovation, damn it.
Well, Derek Stevens, the call has gone out to you. If you would like that $1,000 bankroll, call Matt Brown. It's on its way if you can show him something just a little bit better.
Matt's real good for sportsbook business.
Yeah. You guys.
I already hammered the sports books last NFL season.
I've had a decent little run out of here, but no, seriously, Circa is they also came out with a competing contest to the Super Contest, which is a popular handicapping contest here in Las Vegas, and with that they came out and said that they were going to be able to take the bets for that contest over their app. And then, Dustin, we found immediately it made some changes happen here in Vegas as well, and the Super Contest announced, I guess it was this morning on a Thursday morning, that they too will be taking their bets over an app.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I think we were saying that we believe they had said that for last season as well, and it didn't happen. So, I mean, Superbook is going everywhere and touting their tech and trying to get apps launched in other states. So, like, if they can't pull this off, it's not a great look. So, I would encourage them to be able to not do this analog and be able to do it online. That would be a good look for their brands.
And we did get the numbers coming out of Nevada here, guys. And as we kind of expected, Nevada is starting to hear the footsteps.
They are. I would say that we've seen this happen once before. The numbers have drawn closer once before. March Madness, I think because of the in-person presence that March Madness still holds, Las Vegas as a destination, people showing up to bet in Las Vegas will still present some surges like that. Where last month, when it came to the March Madness betting revenue, we were seeing $600 million in handle, an all-time record in a month for Nevada. But this past month, you're looking at New Jersey and Nevada ultimately being about $400,000 apart in revenue, roughly $15 million apart in handle. And that could be a sign of things to come in the future. It dovetails beautifully with what you just talked about, Matt, in terms of Circa Sports bringing a new app into the market and Nevada's need to catch up with the technology that is in New Jersey. We know that about 80% of bets every month in 2019 have been placed via a mobile app in New Jersey. Anecdotally, in Nevada, that's between 60 and 70%. Nevada does not actually track that number separately, and frankly, that might be a good thing right now, because I think the comparison would be something that Nevada would not enjoy a whole lot right now between New Jersey and the Silver State. So, yeah, we've seen some smart analysts like Chris Kraftik come out and say that it might not be long before New Jersey ultimately passes Nevada, and a month like this makes it look entirely possible.
Eric, let me put you on the spot here. We talk about the contest at Circa. We talk about the Super Contest. And, of course, we sit here and talk every single week about what's going on in New Jersey. Are you surprised? Because what we've seen out of, PointsBet and DraftKings and FanDuel and some of these brands over in New Jersey is they like to be first. I mean, they were the first to release these week one lines. We just got the week one lines in the NFL from from MGM yesterday, as to where they've been out for several weeks over at the books over New Jersey and whatnot. Are you surprised that we haven't had one of these big handicapping contests announced yet by these sports books?
Yeah, you'd have to think it's probably only a matter of time, though, right? It's a little more difficult in New Jersey than it is with the setup in Nevada. But I mean, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, really surprised. I think we'd probably have a handful to choose from by football season. I would hope.
Dustin, you're the guy with the ear on the ground. I mean, what are you hearing? Are we definitely getting a big handicapping contest coming from someone in New Jersey?
I have not heard that. I would hope somebody's got that in the works. But if you're not doing it with an app, then you're probably, I think you're wasting your time. It's going to be particularly tough, I think, in Atlantic City to do that. So I guess I'd be short of shocked if there isn't one. But I do hope one of the market leaders, DraftKings, FanDuel, somewhere right there that we can do that, get it done before the NFL season. But I'm not going to say it's 100% going to happen.
As we mentioned at the top of the show, Pennsylvania has some very, very big news, and there's nobody we would rather have on this show than our very own Jess Wellman to talk about what is going on over there in Pennsylvania. So take a minute here with Jess. As mentioned, our resident Pennsylvania expert, Jess Wellman, is here. You can find her on the Twitter machine at Jess Wellman. And you can find all of the awesome things she does at playpennsylvania.com. Jess, thanks for being here.
Happy to have some good news, real news for once. Good, real, actual news.
I know. See, the last time we had you on, we had theoretical news. We had dates that were kind of floating. Sometimes we felt like they were actually going to hit. Sometimes we felt like they're not going to hit, but we needed to pass along the information. But now we have real things to talk about.
I know. Although I have to say, I know we were all excited for this big day. It's maybe not as exciting as we thought it was going to be, But let's get to that. I can explain.
Yes. Tell the people of Pennsylvania what we are so happy about.
We are happy because on Tuesday, Sugar House Casino went into the final live testing portion of its sports betting app. So people in Pennsylvania can, in fact, bet online. Like tonight, you can fire up game one of the finals and in-game bet it on your telephone. On your telephone in Pennsylvania.
Now, Dustin, we would actually tell people to maybe wait a week, right? Because maybe just wait a week if you wanted to start betting over there in Pennsylvania. Just head to LSR and check out some stuff. I don't know. Just saying.
Maybe. I mean, all that being said, there are actual. I mean, Jess can talk more about it, but there's it's been a little bit of a rough rollout. There's several issues. One, you can't download on the App Store. You have an iPhone, you got to go to Safari and do it that way. That's, that'll work. It's not probably the best experience in the world to do it that way. But we also don't have any idea of when they're going to be in the App Store either. I think the launch was with the idea that, we're not sure when Apple is going to approve the app. So that's one of it. The deposit options right now are also are really brutal. Like in New Jersey, you have, it's tough, but there are lots of different ways. You have NetTeller, you have PayPal, you have other electronic means. Pay Near Me. You have none of that in Pennsylvania. You have credit cards and a few other options. Credit cards, I'm here to tell you, if you're in Pennsylvania, you're going to get declined a lot. That's while they do take credit cards, and some banks behind credit cards will take those deposits. It's not a great situation, and a lot of banks are just going to decline them automatically, and you're going to have a rough time. So without all these other options, there's going to be a large swath of people who want to get on Sugar House and just can't.
So, Jess, let's talk about this. There's people who are going to want to bet. They're going to hear this. They're going to go to all the people that have all these iPhones. You not being one of them, we understand. But the everyone else on the face of the planet has iPhones, and they're going to go and they're going to look for this app, and it's not going to be there. Why is that?
It is because we can't quite pinpoint it. Dustin wrote an explanation for us on Play Pennsylvania last week. Essentially, it sounds like what the App Store is cracking down on is what is called a wrapped app, where someone will just take their website and kind of configure it so it looks nice on your phone, versus I'm going to build a very specific iOS app from scratch, completely different from what we're offering on the website. That is the issue more than the gambling is the issue, we think, really is at the heart of this. So this is probably not just a Pennsylvania problem. Other casinos, as they roll out, are going to have to figure out ways to get listed in the App Store. And if that is to build a custom app, that's going to take some time.
So if people want to go and they do want to try and play, we mentioned they might have trouble with credit cards. Are there any other options?
They might have trouble with any of them, honestly, because there's only 3 options, really. You have the credit cards, of which there's Visa, MasterCard, Discover. I'm told, at least based on WSOP.com experience, your best bets are MasterCard. Visas almost always get declined, but MasterCard does have a little higher success rate. The other 2 are, you can go to Sugar House Casino and you can hand them money to put on your account.
What is this nonsense? What are we, in 1950? I mean, come on.
Wait, you have to do that in Nevada. What are you talking about?
I know. That was my whole. You get my point. Yes. You get my point.
You know how awful it is, so that's why you're upset about it. Yeah. And the other one is, Sugar House sells these like prepaid cards, kind of like those cash credit cards, they're and you can go to Sugar House and get those. Unfortunately, if you have one that you've gotten for New Jersey, I'm hearing that those will not work on the Pennsylvania side. So, it sounds like the people with the highest success rate are the ones that are just going down there and handing over cash, which is not ideal. So like kind of what Justin was saying, we knew the Apple thing was coming. But this payment processor issue was the hiccup. I think people didn't fully realize how bad it was going to be. At ICE in Boston a couple weeks ago, they said They don't think PayPal will be ready in time for online casino launch, which is July 15th. So you're talking like 6 more weeks before you can use PayPal, which I would assume in New Jersey is the number one means by which people fund accounts. It's not pretty. And I don't know when things like ACH and eCheck and Pay Near Me will come on board. I think the issue is that they need some PGCB approvals to get on board. But the calendar, I haven't heard anything about how long it will take beyond. We'll have them eventually.
Yeah, well, what if someone says, okay, well, to hell with Sugar House then. I'm just going to play on DraftKings or FanDuel. Well, not so fast, right?
Well, I mean, you have to go to New Jersey.
Right.
That's the problem. If you're in Philadelphia, I feel like it's actually not that awful for you. You know, like you go to New Jersey, you bet there. But if you're in Pittsburgh, in the middle of Pennsylvania or elsewhere, you kind of don't have options beyond. I mean, yeah, you could play DFS, DraftKings, and FanDuel if you want to, and you can go to the couple of sports books in those areas of the state. But other than that, you know, if you can't get money on the app, you're pretty SOL.
So Sugar House is not going to be alone in the market forever. This is going to change in relatively short order. Either June or July, we figure there'll be at least a couple of other apps live. And I think FanDuel is no secret that they're going to be live sometime before NFL season. But yeah, right now, just Sugar House with more options to come. But again, I don't think the payment processing issue is going to get any better at those either. I think you're going to be looking at the same thing, right?
The payment processor issue is not native to Sugar House. This is a Pennsylvania issue. With PayPal, they explicitly said Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board needs to approve them. They will not be approved in time for this July 15th launch. So this is a regulatory thing, and that means, you know, thankfully it's kind of a slow season, but I think the NBA Finals is a great example of, I bet people would have loved to be able to in-game bet that, and the number of people who will successfully be able to do so is not going to be very big.
The other thing that comes out of this for me is that we're going to see disappointing mobile numbers probably as a result of all this, and then there's going to be this constant narrative like, oh, I thought mobile was supposed to solve everything. Well, yeah, we have one app and it's not ideal. We don't have iOS. We don't have good payment options. So people are going to be calling me a liar for saying mobile sports betting is panacea, and then we're like all these caveats are like, well, this and this and this have happened, and it's not great.
Well, can I also add?
Don't worry.
Go ahead, Adam.
No, that's fine. Go ahead, Jess.
Oh, okay. I love that on Friday, before this launch happened, Dustin writes this Apple story. Everybody on Twitter's like, well, why don't you just launch without Apple? You don't need Apple. What's the holdup? Just go ahead and launch. And then you get to Tuesday and they're like, this is BS. Where's Apple? What the hell? Like, you know, like there's no winning.
No,
I do feel a little bad for Sugar House that there's literally no winning here.
So
you know?
we do have Sugar House. Dustin alluded to that there will be others. Who do you feel is next, Jess? Where will people be able to bet if they don't want to, for whatever reason, bet at Sugar House?
Well, I mean, this isn't the greatest answer. Sugar House has a sister property, Rivers Casino in Pittsburgh. They tend to do things in tandem because they share so many resources. I would think they will be coming very soon. And I'm starting to see a lot of notifications from Parks that online betting is coming. So I think by mid-June, probably, you'll have those 2 or 3 online. By the end of June, FanDuel will probably be in the mix. And then by football season, maybe 6 or so apps. That's kind of the high end, but you'll have options by the time football season comes here.
And before we let you go, if people are curious about casino, we were floating a date out there of July the 15th when that was looking like something we were going to do. Are you still liking that date? Are you hating that date? How do you feel about it?
I don't love it anymore, which is so frustrating. Who's like, I'm going to throw a party on July 15th. I'm going to announce it 3 months in advance. But when I do, I will know in the back of my head there's a chance that this party is not going to happen. And I'm going to have to come out and be like, we're going to reschedule for a little later. Hope y'all don't mind. It's a weird PR move. They haven't said they're not going to hit it. There's just whispers that there won't be anybody able to hit it. So I'm not as excited about that day as I once was.
I thought we brought Jess on for good news today. That's how we started this segment. What in the world?
Like 7 people can in-game bet this basketball tonight, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that's 7 more. That's 7 more people than were in-game betting last week, right? I mean, like, we'll look at it. We'll look at it that way. Dustin, you're again last handicapping of the episode here. Casino launching on July the 15th.
No, not that.
All right. So we did have a little bit of good news in that segment, guys. It just wasn't all good news. You know, I mean, it is how it is sometimes.
Comparatively to when I come on here and I'm just Debbie Downer, I felt like I was bringing a lot of happiness today.
Let's think back to October 2017, and we're like, oh, we're gonna have sports betting on the casino sometime. It's now almost 2 years later, and we're finally doing something. So any progress is great, right?
Very true, very true, very true. And again, you can find everything that Jess and her crew does over at playpennsylvania.com, and you can follow her on the Twitter machine to get all of that information at Jess Wellman. You should definitely do that. Jess, we will be having you on much more often as these things continue to launch. Thank you for being here with us.
No problem. Can't wait to bring more mediocre news to you in the coming weeks.
We look forward to it. Always good to have Jess on the podcast here. And of course, we will have much more of Jess here as things continue to get dicey over there in Pennsylvania with launches and all the news, and of course casino coming and everything like that. So we will certainly have much more of Jess, and you can certainly find all of that information on playpennsylvania.com. So be sure and head over there. Now, guys, as we close things out here, it is the state that we just hate to talk about. Adam penned a heartfelt letter to this state on legalsportsreport.com. If you have not read it, you should definitely go over there. Adam, can you give us a little bit about your feelings towards Illinois?
This is not easy, Matt.
I know. I could feel it when I was reading your words. I felt what you were going through.
We're here for you.
I appreciate that. I mean, if I'm being really honest with you guys, and my therapist said I should, I had to actually get the salt off the keyboard from my tears because I was that sad writing about having to break up with the state of Illinois. But, I was able to put up with Illinois' crazy antics for a couple of years, and it was kind of cute. And I could always tell my friends, well, it's different when you're not around. And this year it just got to be too much because the sports betting bill process in Illinois this year has been cray. Like it's impossible to figure out what exactly the lawmakers have been thinking in Illinois. We first saw a smorgasbord of 5 different amendments come out at the beginning. None of them were particularly good. That got narrowed down to 2 amendments. Both of those were pretty terrible as well. And now here toward the very end of the session, and we're about to wrap the session up in Illinois, we saw one catch-all, try to make everyone happy amendment come out. And it was one of those things where in 89 pages of reading the bill, there were so many times that I just stopped and said, what? Why? What? Why? Where did this come from? No one has been asking for this. We're talking about $25 million license fees, bad actor penalties against DraftKings and FanDuel because Illinois is still mad about DFS from 4 years ago. They're going to try to make DraftKings and FanDuel sit out for 3 years. Then DraftKings and FanDuel came back and put $1 million into an ad spend trying to fight back against Rivers Casino because Rivers has been the one pushing this penalty box thing. In any case, it's a severe underdog to get something done in Illinois at this late date. But I penned my Dear John letter already and said, whatever you're doing, Illinois, I can't go on with this anymore. I hope you're happy. I hope you find someone who makes you happy. Clearly, that's not going to be DraftKings or FanDuel. And, I wish you the best, but I'm not going to be here for it.
So, Dustin, you explained last week on the podcast, and if you guys did not listen to last week's podcast, you can go in there and you can get the explanation of what a bad actor is if you were unaware of that terminology and what that all means. But, Dustin, can you give the rationale as to why they are saying DraftKings and FanDuel would be considered bad actors?
Yeah, so they're saying that DraftKings and FanDuel were against the law in Illinois back when they were only daily fantasy sports companies. So they're using that backstop of the Illinois Attorney General once said that DraftKings and FanDuel and any type of daily fantasy sports was not illegal under Illinois law. Now, there was never any finding of fact. The AG doesn't have the power to say that as a matter of law. They can just advise that they think that's the case. And there's never been any resolution of is it actually legal or not. There's actually plenty of states where there's still some matter of open question of the status of DFS, and it's probably never going to get resolved. So they're using that as, okay, DraftKings and FanDuel are bad actors, which, you can believe that, I guess, but I think there's a lot of problems with trying to put that into a law the way they're doing it. It's definitely just meant for competition. We've seen DraftKings and FanDuel obviously crush the New Jersey market. If they were allowed into an mostly unfettered Illinois market, they'd probably do just as well. So they're trying to be handicapped, and understand that, because it's their stakeholders are going to do what they can to protect their own interest. And DraftKings and FanDuel are not good for business for anybody else who wants to do sports betting. It's good for the state in terms of revenue and everything else. But so yeah, there's a lot to go. All that being said, as we sit here, there is a chance Illinois gets something done. I mean, we're something like 36 hours away from them closing up shop for the season, unless they have a special session to deal with something later on, which seems unlikely as well. But there's crazier things that have happened than actually seeing this all get done. I'm with Adam. I'm not going to say that's any kind of betting favorite. I'd say it's still a huge underdog, especially since we're sitting here on Thursday afternoon and there's been nothing actually move forward, and there doesn't seem to be anything real imminent right this second, but it doesn't mean it can't happen quickly.
Eric, if you and I were FanDuel, I would walk in there and I would say, yeah, I mean, the people who owned the company before us might have been doing all of these things that you hate so much, but we're now owned by the Brits. This is not even the same ownership company anymore. We're owned by a completely separate entity. We're the good FanDuel now. We are good actors. We are not bad actors.
Yeah, it's frustrating for the best interest of the industry. It's not like these guys were in there offering online casino games in violation of the law. This was not really a competing product with casinos at the time, although they are now would be a direct competitor of the casinos. And yeah, I think Adam kind of speaks for all of us in just sort of being tired of watching this battle. It's not gone well. There's just not support for the way this is going. And to Dustin's point, we don't even have final language yet here the day before adjournment. We're still waiting to see what this last-ditch attempt from Rob Rita will look like. So, yeah, it's a shame that this whole opportunity for revenue and for regulation may be spoiled out of a desire to spite the DFS companies. Now Matt is muted.
No. I thought I saw Adam unmute himself, so I thought.
I didn't. Matt didn't know you were giving me that much leeway. All right, how do you want to do this?
I thought just you can just start.
No,
talking.
I do have something to say.
Yeah. No, you can just start talking. I'll have him edit.
Okay, this is good. I'm just letting you. This is going to come at you, so be ready.
Yeah, that's fine.
Matt, I'm not sure if you have any Irish friends out there, but they wouldn't want to be left out of this discussion either in the FanDuel ownership situation.
Yeah. Well, I know. I get it. You understood my point, Adam.
Occasionally, I understand your point. You're good at that.
Listen, I'm sitting here just trying to say that I was not one of those bad actors. I am now a good actor, and we're doing everything above board here. So let us into your state and let us start making the monies.
You're such a good actor. You're my own personal Keanu Reeves.
I know. He is, and he is a really good actor. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here on episode 12. Again, we are on iTunes, we are on Stitcher, we are on Spotify. If you want to follow us on the Twitter machine at LSP Report, at Dustin Gowker, at Eric_Ramsey, at Adam Candy with 2 E's, no Y, and I am at Matt Brown M2. Of course, you can find all of the details of everything we talked about here on LegalSportsReport.com. For Adam, for Eric, for Dustin, I'm Matt. See you guys next week.